What is going on, everybody? Don't worry, the lighting gets better. Just recorded this video, finished it up. This is just an introduction. So you're gonna hear Grant Morrison here for about 2 to 4 minutes saying something about the bicameral mind, explaining what people back in the day when they started writing holy books, and even before that, they were acting on the mind of God, or they got a message from God. He's gonna explain from someone else, Julian something, why that happened. And this is what I'm basing this video on. So just wanted to give a little precursor so you don't think I'm just playing someone else's video. If I will try to leave the link also in this video, but the link to the full Grant Morrison thing is in my love sigil or love spell fucking whatever thing part 1 video. Is got this link. Now this isn't love spells part 2, but that is to come. But anyways, stay tuned, and you're gonna get a bunch of good information from my ass. Of course, I always give you great information, but a lot of practical stuff you can do for beginners. So yeah, stay tuned.
Tested it, put it in the crucible to see what happens, and it works. So I began to think more and more about the individual, and I looked into what that actually meant. And what it was a structure that was pretty much created. The ego structure was created out of what Julian Jaynes calls the bicameral mind, becoming one mind. And apparently, according to him, he says that back in the old days of the Greeks and the earliest writing in the world, people didn't have self-consciousness in the same way that we have. They didn't have egos. They didn't understand themselves as I in the same way we did, because the corpus callosum that connects the two hemispheres of the brain wasn't connected. So if you heard a voice, that voice was God. And Homer and all those guys have got plenty of examples of people hearing the voice of God and acting on it. Alexander constantly acted on the voice of God. Julian Jaynes suggests that it wasn't the voice of God, it was the voice of the left hemisphere of the brain communicating with the right hemisphere of the brain, interpreted as a God. So okay, now we've got the two things joined together. We've got this beautiful bridge in the middle that links the two. But we still have the ego structure, which was then created when those things linked, because suddenly we linked, oh fuck, I am that I am. This is my God is this, I am separate, I am one. We made this idea that we're somehow separated from nature. No, bullshit. What's again, I read New Scientist last month, right? New Scientist last month, they're talking about nature. We must control nature, we must do this. How do we deal with our relationship to nature? We are fucking nature. There's nothing on this planet that is not nature. Power stations are nature. You know, like atom bombs are nature, because nature made us to make those things. Either you trust nature or you don't trust nature, and I trust nature. Okay. So we have to assume, what is nature getting at here? If we ignore this crap that we're somehow isolated from nature, that we somehow have to tame nature, of course, nature knows exactly what it's doing. The planet is not in danger, we are.
What's up, everybody? The bicameral mind. Jillian James, guy. I thought it was a girl. Doesn't matter. So I want to talk about today. That's why I played my man Grant motherfucking Morrison, and understand he had a lot to lose by this. That is my Uncle Tom. My Uncle Tom is, my mom has 3 sisters, and Uncle Tom was the oldest. He actually married my dad's sister, so I had double cousins. And before you say incest, well, no. My mom was with my dad. My Uncle Tom was with my Aunt Debbie. It's not like my mom and my dad were from the same family. I mean, my dad is a LeBlanc, my mom was a Jeannot. My Aunt Debbie was a LeBlanc, and my Uncle Tom was a Jeannot. So it was Tom Jeannot, and my cousins were called Jeannots. They weren't even had the same last name as me, but they had both LeBlancs and Jeannots, just like I had LeBlancs and Jeannots. So it ain't incest, nothing of the kind. My dad and his sister dated my mom and her brother. Just weird, just fucking weird. Just, you know, it's like, hey, as your friend, hey, your girlfriend have a sister or a brother, you know what I mean? It'd be like that. It'd be like if you were dating someone's sister, and then their other sister dated your brother, or something to that effect. You know what I mean? Just the same family. Same 2 families dating two members of another family. You know what I mean? 2 people from the same family dating 2 people from another family. Just double family action. But it ain't really incest. Once one gets married, then so my Uncle Tom and my Aunt Debbie technically got married first. So therefore, my mom is now related to my Aunt Debbie through law, and my dad is now related to my Uncle Tom through law. But my mom and my dad had no relation. They're related to the other one that got married through law. So there's no incest. I hate having to explain this shit. But double cousins. It's pretty cool. And my cousin Nisha is the only other one in the family that has green eyes like me. My cousin Sheena, her sister, she looked a lot like me. People thought we were brother and sister growing up. Who knows? I don't know. But probably the whole double cousin thing. We got the same double genes, you know. Both is blonde, both should know. Genes do play into this. Not as much as your environment and programming does, but your genes do play into it. You do look like your family members. Some kids don't. Some people don't at all. I mean, at all. And other people, it's like spitting image. Like the oldest in my family with my dog, I got 2 daughters and I got 2 stepboys. Well, the oldest boy looks like his mom and his dad. So Noel Longchamp is his father. He looks like him, but he also looks like my wife. You can tell he's a mix of both of them. All their genes are in that boy. You can see them both in his face, in his way he talks, in his attitude and everything. But Owen, it looks like Dan and Kyle, which are Noel's side of the family. But he got his genes from the grandpa and the uncle. And I'm not saying because my wife had a threesome and both sperms got in there. That's not the case. She would fuck either one of them. But point is, he got his genes from there. You know, the genes that are in Noel also are in his brother, which would be the uncle, and are in, you know, the father gave the genes to Noel. So those genes ended up coming out in Owen. He's a mix between Dan and Kyle, and you can really see that in him, from the hyper impulsivity to the face structure, nose structure, all of it. It's a little version of them two. Enough about that shit. The bicarbonate minds. Jillian James suggests that Greeks before Christ's time, and even before that, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, Sumerian, ancient civilizations, when they spoke and they heard the voice of God. She suggests it's because the corpus callosum, which is kind of somewhere close to, anyways, it connects the 2 hemispheres of the brain. Well, that wasn't connected. That wasn't there back when this was happening. So some people heard the voice of God, and she suggests it's just the left hemisphere speaking to the right hemisphere, meaning because the left side is the right side, and the right side is the left side. But anyways, she said, or he says rather, that it was just interpreted as God, but it was just their own intuitive spirit. That nonetheless is what we do here in magic, and we connect to our subconscious mind, and that is the link to the divine. So in a manner of speaking, it's right, but in the same sense, it's wrong, because they're not actually speaking to God, they're speaking to the internal voice within them. Once again, you can get this voice whether you're depolarized or not. So if you're completely polarized and you are getting thoughts, and get that straight, I don't necessarily think this is magic, like when you do hypnosis. I think some of them were. I think some of them, it was just straight up thoughts. Like, I get thoughts. If I'm at school, when I was at school and I was trying to do stuff and write a story, the thoughts would flow to me like someone was giving me the fucking story. Like, I'm not joking to you. The story writes itself, and I'm just the channel who's taking the information and writing it down. I always had that kind of brain, and I can still do that right now. So I did the other day when I was reading you off my paper. Well, that's how I got the information, because I was reading it, putting it down. But point is, I think it's like that. I think it was just thoughts, whatever they were pointing at, whatever they were getting the thoughts to. So if they were trying to think of God and shit like that, then they can get some godly thoughts and how they think the structure of the world was made and all that. Especially some people. Some people are more advanced than other people. And that's why these are normally kings, and maybe other people got the thoughts too, but because only the kings and the queens and the people who were rich were able to be educated and write in books and shit like that. Well, only they got to write down their thoughts, and those are the only ones that went through time. We know that a lot of the witches and magician books got burned in the Inquisition, and we don't have that information anymore. So, all we have left are the books that they wanted us to have, and that's pretty shitty. Anyways, I forgot my mask. I gotta go to my clinic. Alright, so, oh shit, showing my nipple. Fucking Christ. Anyways, so when I say that this is the corpus callosum is what was connected, when Grant Morrison says that, I think that's what he's referring to. So these people didn't have a connection to the subconscious mind, or they didn't even have maybe the conscious mind completely connected yet. This is why you can understand the Bible a few different ways. It could be a story just about the connection of the two, and you can't pretend like people who wrote the Bible were like us, just way back when, without certain technology, so they don't have certain words. You can't look at it that way. You gotta look at it in the sense of the fact is that they were trying to write down maybe a story that will last through the ages, that everybody can understand, but at the same time, it does. I didn't even say that. Anyways, I'll go back to myself. So when I was at school, when I was a kid, I'm in class. I have what I thought was thinking, brainstorming, using my brain, shit like that. My teacher used to say, okay, we had this procedure to doing projects. First thing was you think of your title, your idea. Sometimes you can brainstorm for that, but for the most part it was come up with some kind of topic to think about, or they would give us the topic. And the next step would be brainstorming. So it's just on a regular sheet of paper, just start writing down as many random ideas as you can think of. And I would never do that. As soon as I had my title, I would just start writing. I would just start writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. And we'd start writing the story itself. And then they wanted us to do an introduction, and then 3 paragraphs and a conclusion and shit like that. But I would just fucking write. Sometimes I couldn't do that structure because I could just keep writing and writing and writing. I wasn't able to stay within there. But there were some people that were very good at that, and my mom ended up arguing that point, like, well, Corey's money doesn't exactly look like this. As soon as he has the title, he can write, and the introduction and the body, and then the conclusion kind of writes itself. And I always had it down, but I wouldn't follow their specific procedure. So I never lost points because it eventually loosened up. Because seriously, like, they wanted us, okay, only 1 paragraph today, don't go ahead. And I always wanted to go ahead and finish it off. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't be bad. Like, I mean, if I would have took the whole 5 days to write my project, it probably could have been better. But with me, even when I write a question, like the Thunder Wizard, I write a fucking paragraph. Maybe that's the Moon and Gemini thing. It's the communication. Maybe it's the Mercury in my 12th house that does that as well. Maybe that helps out too with both of those. I mean, look, that's bound to happen, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, when I was a kid, I didn't know what that was, and now I'm starting to think that, well, then you open to it and you just let ideas flow through you without judgment, without saying, oh, these are bad thoughts, these are good thoughts, putting a label on them, accepting or banishing them. When you're just trying to write a story, it doesn't really affect you. But when you're an adult and you're thinking about your finances, well, then you have a harder time thinking about what you want to think about, meaning you think about your finances. There's no reason for an adult today who isn't in spirituality to just randomly think, like, you know what, I'm not going to worry about my problems or my money issues, and I'm just going to wish that they all go away and it'll be so. I mean, if they're not in spirituality, why would someone think like that? And now we have this, law of attraction shit, and people are saying that. And they're right. That's a possibility. You can do that. I don't worry about money yet. And as a byproduct, I never have to worry about money. It's a cycle. But if you worry about money, well, then you're going to have to worry about money, because the incoming is you worrying about money, and it affects the outgoing, which is not having the money. Therefore, you have to worry about the money. It's going to continuously happen in a cycle, or however you want to justify or say that. That's how it just, I'm in my zone, nigga, fuck with me, hey, so I shouldn't say that, sorry. So it just keeps going, it's circle, circle. What you think of, happens. What you don't think of, doesn't happen. Like, if you're not thinking about your money problems, well, you're not getting money problems. That's also the way it works. So I'm not focusing on my money problems, right? So if I was focusing on money problems, I'd be giving that electricity to come into existence. What I'm doing is not focusing on them. I'm thinking about other things. I'm focusing on my kids wearing masks a little bit, worrying about that shit. And, that seems to be ramping up, and they're getting more and more strict and shit like that. It's like, fuck, I gotta stop focusing on that. But in the same sense, I look at it because I want to find some kind of resolution or way to get around it. And besides faking them having asthma or getting a doctor to say they can't wear a mask to all at school, then I don't really know where my wits ends when it comes to that shit. But if you don't focus about shit, it won't come in. And I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm supposed to be talking about how people prescribe or add or think, the Bible and other holy books are divinely written, and it's the Word of God. And it's not the Word of God. We've said it's the Word of a God. But I'm gonna play from what you just saw from Grant Morrison. There's a little bit before that. I mean, it's almost an hour long, this whole thing. You should totally check it out. I have the link right now in the video where the girl commented, "I need boyfriend." And the reason I told her to look at that video, and it's probably not even a real girl, or maybe it is, I don't know. But I told her to look at that video because if you actually do want a boyfriend, then in there, Grant uses Sigil magic to get a girl. And then he does it like the comic book character. He kept dating girls, and he was fucking them that were like the comic book character. And because the only parameters he put in his sigil magic was, I want a girl that looks like this. And he didn't get on, well, that's his words, he didn't get on with any of them. But what I think he means is he didn't get along with any of them. He didn't have anything in common. There was nothing there but sexual desire, like he wanted to get laid. He spoke up with his girlfriend because she probably thought he was crazy. He said as a result to finding out that magic works, and his comic was a sigil, and everything he did to his character happened to him. As a result of finding that, he ended up breaking up with his girl. So as a result, he decided to use his magic to get a girlfriend. And when he did that, he got girl after girl. I think he says about at least 5 girls that looked like the character from his comic book that he asked for, but he didn't cast for any traits. So this is why I say, if you're going to cast for love, you shouldn't be casting for a specific person. Say, I want somebody like Corey LeBlanc. It's like, well, maybe that'll work, but because you don't know, most people, like right now, I'm with my wife, and I love my wife. So if I was to cast for somebody like my wife to come into my life so I can replace her, well, who knows if that's going to work, because obviously if I'm not happy with her, if I'm casting for another girl, is kind of what I'm trying to say is you've never had a relationship that's worked completely. The one you're in is probably the closest one, and if you're not in a relationship and then you're casting for a relationship, well then why would you think that your judgment, what you want, the person you want, is actually going to work out? Because obviously all the other times you wanted somebody, it didn't work out. So you cast for what you think you want a man to be, and not what Hollywood tells you what a man to be. What you think a man should be. It's all good to say, okay, I want him to have some facial hair and, a hair on his head and this and that, whatever the case is. But you should be saying something to the effect of, I want someone, I'm so grateful that I have a life partner of the opposite sex or same sex, or different sexual orientation, or not specified, or whatever the case is, who pleases me pleases me sexually and pleases me mentally, and helps me grow into a better person, and who, these qualities that you want in a person. Like, I want him to work and bring me all the money, and I can say, I'll be a lazy bitch. Well, I don't want to really help you out if that's what you're casting for. But, if you want to... Anyways, this is not supposed to be my Love Spells Part 2. I'm still working on that one. I might not even ever end up doing it. I don't know. I got this weird message saying, hey, I got a great testimonial to tell you. It was a testimonial for some other dude, but it was a generalized statement. I think it was like there's not a phone number there. I think it's either fraud or it's either someone trying to sell their shit, my shit, which is fine. By all means, if this guy's a real guru and he can teach you how to do love, fucking do it. It's on my part 1 of Love Magic shit, whatever. Like I said, I have a hard time making love magic videos because I've never done love magic. But what I do want to do is tell you the right words and the right procedure and the right combination and the right ingredients, let's say, so to speak, to make it good and make it work. Because I can get things in my mind, or my subconscious rather. And another thing Grant says in this hour-long, almost, I think it's called fucking uninformation, or how do you word that? De-information, something like that. De-info, I don't know, God, whatever. Anyways, it's very good. You should really watch it. He talks about being abducted by aliens, but he makes the correlation that he was abducted by aliens because he wanted to be abducted by aliens, and the aliens looked like how Terence McKenna explained it to be because he read Terence McKenna a year prior to this. So he makes it very cut and clear that he was programmed to believe that he could be abducted by aliens, and he was programmed to see them a specific way. And then he says, the Golden Dawn call it the conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. Aleister Crowley calls it such and such. And he's like, all these people call it a different thing. It happens differently for people. Have I ever had a conversation with a being from another realm? No. Have I intuitively got information from another realm that I can't explain? Yes. And I can tell when it happens because it's not the material that I normally present. And I don't think I've ever talked about it on record.
Doing the comic, I set up these characters. The whole thing was set up as an adventure story where there's some bad guys who live in another dimension who want to enslave us all, and there's some good guys who live in another dimension who want us all to have a good time. In the middle, there is us. And we are trying to obviously have a good time. Everybody wants to have a good time. You know, Hitler wanted to have a good time. And we all want to have a good time. So we've got to understand that as a starter. The more I set up these dualities, the more I set these people against the opposition, the more it began to seem like a complete crock. And we'd been sold this nonsense of opposition. And I began to find, the closer I got to the end of the series, that the whole opposition element of it was the least meaningful, least important part of it, and that we've actually been deluding ourselves in a lot of ways. Beyond that, I find that we've been deluding ourselves in the worst way of all by believing in the individual. Right? Stay with me on this. Kafka, Orwell, Patrick McGowan in The Prisoner, everyone told us the individual was the most important thing we could be. Everyone is fucking quirky these days. Every shit in the window of MTV is quirky. Everyone's cool. Everyone's smart. It's not true. What if the individual was the fake? What if the individual's the crock and we've actually been sold that by them, by the man, the establishment, whatever you want? Because what occurred to me is that when you talk about the individual and you deal with the individual, you find that the end of the individual is neurosis. To be individual means that there is self and not self. Okay? So where I stop, the boundaries of me, right, there's this physical body here, the boundaries of me that stretch out, things I believe in, things that I'm sure we'd all be friends if we talked, but would we be friends with Newt Gingrich? No. But that's the point. I stop when Newt Gingrich starts. Why is that? Why do I stop there? Why does he define my self-sense and I can't absorb him? Why do these fuckers, why does the Skull and Bones Society of the CIA, why do the 33rd degree Masons, why are they different from us? They're not. They want to explain things. They want an answer. They found an answer that seems to suit them, which seems kind of uncool and cruel to me because it involves exploiting other people, but they're looking for an answer. We're all looking for the same thing. Why are we here? Why are we here? What are you doing here today? What do you expect? What do you expect to take home with you? Can anyone answer? There's one person tell me what you expect to take home from me from this. Come on, put your hand up. Yeah? Exactly. Right, because that is all we have. And this is all I can offer you is the experience of having done this shit, tested it, put it in the crucible to see what happens, and it works. So I began to think more and more about the individual, and I looked into what that actually meant. And what it was a structure that was pretty much created, the ego structure was created out of what Julian Jaynes calls the bicameral mind, becoming one mind. And apparently, according to him, he says that back in the old days of the Greeks and the earliest writing in the world, people didn't have self-consciousness in the same way that we have. They didn't have egos. They didn't understand themselves as I in the same way we did, because the corpus callosum that connects the two hemispheres of the brain wasn't connected. So if you heard a voice, that voice was God. He says that back in the old days of the Greeks and the earliest writing in the world, people didn't have self-consciousness in the same way that we have. They didn't have egos. They didn't understand themselves as I in the same way we did, because the corpus callosum that connects the two hemispheres of the brain wasn't connected. So if you heard a voice, that voice was God. More and more about the individual, and I looked into what that actually meant. And what it was a structure that was pretty much created, the ego structure was created out of what Julian Jaynes calls the bicameral mind, becoming one mind. And apparently, according to him, he says that back in the old days of the Greeks and the earliest writing in the world, people didn't have self-consciousness in the same way that we have. They didn't have egos. They didn't understand themselves as I in the same way we did, because the corpus callosum that connects the two hemispheres of the brain wasn't connected. So if you heard a voice, that voice was God. And Homer and all those guys have got plenty of examples of people hearing the voice of God and acting on it. Alexander constantly acted on the voice of God. Julian Jaynes suggests that it wasn't the voice of God, it was the voice of the left hemisphere of the brain communicating with the right hemisphere of the brain, interpreted as a God. So okay, now we've got the two things joined together. We've got this beautiful bridge in the middle that links the two. But we still have the ego structure, which was then created when those things linked, because suddenly we linked, oh fuck, I am that I am. This is my God is this, I am separate, I am one. We made this idea that we're somehow separated from nature. No, bullshit. Again, I read New Scientist last month, right? New Scientist last month, they're talking about nature, we must control nature, we must do this. How do we deal with our relationship to nature? We are fucking nature. There's nothing on this planet that is not nature. Power stations are nature. You know, like atom bombs are nature, because nature made us to make those things. Either you trust nature or you don't trust nature, and I trust nature. Okay. So we have to assume, what is nature getting at here? If we ignore this crap that we're somehow isolated from nature, that we somehow have to tame nature, of course, nature knows exactly what it's doing. The planet is not in danger, we are. The planet will survive. The planet's been through like ammonia atmospheres and impossible to live on and everything dead, and it gets its way back out of it. We're in danger. Or so we think, because our hubris tells us that we are in danger. Our hubris tells us that we're about to destroy the world. We're going to wreck the planet. We'll fuck the atmosphere. No, we'll fuck our atmosphere. You know, some trilobites will come up and they'll be able to live in anything we create. So that is not the problem. The problem is, we're standing here at the 21st century stuck with individuality because we believed in it so much. It seemed so important that we should all be distinct. What happens if we stop being distinct? And what happens if we think about individuality as something that was actually just scaffolding for where we are now? So if you create a skyscraper, you put up your scaffolding, you build the building, and what's happened here is that we've overlooked the building and focused on the scaffolding. You know, why haven't we taken the scaffolding down? Let's do it today. Take the scaffolding down. Because the individual was a way to get us to this point. And what I really think, and basically why I'm here, is to try and punt this notion. After doing this comic book for 6 years, after thinking about this stuff for 6 years, after proving that it works for 6 years, I'm left with this notion. We've been fooled, and we've fooled ourselves, and we continue to fool ourselves. And like Doug said, there is no us and no them, there's just us. And somehow we're trying to make this thing work, and it does work. Say, for instance, Most of us here probably are pretty counterculture types. We've had some, we like our drugs, we like this and that, we like breaking a few rules. But we don't like the police in general. Who here loves the police? Hands up. Nice one. Because I'm going to teach you to love the police. Why do we hate the police? If we want to change things, why don't everyone in here, let's go down to the local precinct and join up. Are we going to do it? Who's going to do it with me? Because I'm not going to do it.
Alright, it's a few days later. I'm hoping that little fog will go away. It's a little bit of condensation, but, whatever. So, you shouldn't be really looking at me. You should be listening to what I have to say, I guess. But, you don't have to listen to what I have to say. It's all up to you. But I want to keep going on what Grant said. And I know a lot of those parts replayed over and over again. It was just the way I recorded it. I tried to record it all as one, and I thought I had. I recorded this like fucking Monday or Tuesday last week. So, but this is a very important thing to understand. Especially when he keeps going, talking about how we've been fooled. There's no us versus them. It's just us. That's very important, and you should really watch it, listen to that. But the reason I play these parts was to learn about the bicarbonal mind, so that everybody out there hears what he says when he says that when people heard the voice of God, what they were hearing was their own mind, was their own thoughts. And what I'm trying to do here is show people that spirituality isn't just in your subconscious mind. I mean, it is. It's the link to the divine. It's what you have to do to create your own life. Absolutely. But you can be getting thoughts all day long, ideas from your subconscious mind, even if you're not. I mean, it depends on the person, because I don't know how all people are, but I know how I am. And I know I'm not the only one that gets this, because the way Frater Xavier explains that one lesson a few ago that I put on here when he said it's really fucking cool, excuse the expression and all that, I know that he has the same kind of way of getting information from his subconscious mind as I do. And it's not always just straight up in a meditative state, but that's another thing people need to understand, is that meditative states aren't always just sitting in a lotus fucking position with, depending on how you do it, this finger's important, this finger's important too. These fingers, a lot of people like to do that shit, but I tend to use the middle or the fucking pinky. But the point is, it's not always like that. It's not always trying to get in this altered state of mind. If you're trying too hard to get into a state, you're probably not even going to accomplish it if you're trying to. But if you just let go and things come to you, like I said a long time ago, doing the dishes, if you're occupying your conscious mind, it's busy doing something, then you can start getting thoughts from your subconscious mind. Or if you're listening to something and you want to reprogram yourself, you can use YouTube videos to reprogram yourself. Absolutely. If you listen to something like the Grant Morrison thing over and over and over and over and over again, you will start to program your mind that there is no us versus them, that there's nobody trying to harm you, that magic is real, because it says in there that over and over and over again that he has done this for 6 years. This is old enough too. I think it was called the D-Info Seminar or something like that. But he says he's done it for 6 years and it works, and he proves it works. And he talks about all the people in the past have been trying to tell us it works, from the Mesopotamians to Aleister Crowley to I forget the first guy he says. But anyways, he talks about Terence McKenna a lot. I mean, if you were to listen to this every fucking day while you're doing the dishes, you would eventually program your mind that magic is real. And then once that's a program inside your mind, it's not going to be hard for you to perform magic, because now you have the possibility. Now you have the software that you can run this application that you can actually program your mind to do this shit. And that's where lies the problem for most people. They know the reality is created by their subconscious mind. They know there's programs running in them that control the reality, but they don't know how to get in touch with the part of their body to create the reality. They consciously understand all this stuff, but the subconscious programming that they already have in them, they don't know how to overrule it. Well, this is one way. It's simply watching the same video day in and day out, or like same videos that speak about the same things over and over again, telling you magic is real, will eventually program you to do this stuff, to be able to bring stuff into creation. Yesterday we were on our way home from we went to it's Canamore Apple farm or whatever, and we went. They have a bunch of mazes there for Halloween and stuff like that, and they have a pretty good swag and scary ride. But we brought the kids. We went during the day, and we went on like, this little cow ride. It's like these little cows behind a tractor that have wheels, fake cows. And then we have this other wagon ride, and we did the 4 mazes that were there. And we had a great fucking time. But we spent a fuckload of money on the way home. My wife had some money coming in, but hadn't came into her bank yet. We had to buy lunch. We only had $40 that was available to use, and the rest of the funds hadn't cleared or whatever the case was. I told her, like, babe, if you just let it go, it'll happen, okay? And she took my advice, and she did. She's doing awesome like that. And then all of a sudden, my phone wigs out on me. I'm listening to Spotify, and all of a sudden, the song's changing. I'm not even touching the fucking thing. Well, all of a sudden, the song changes and goes on to a country song. I'm not a big country fan. My wife is. And it goes on in the song, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Baby, just let it be. How fucking weird is that, right? And that's what I was told. If it's, it'll be, just let it be. And, it'll be so. Well, that song comes on. And then in my head, the first idea I got was, I wonder if that's because the money just got in the account. I should tell her to fucking... I should tell her to check her account. So then first thing I did was, you know what? I accept that thought. And I said, hey, babe, check your account. Maybe the money's in. She checks it. She's like, how'd you know? It's in there. And she was checking it before that until I told her to let it be. This was only like 10 minutes later. And I was like, and I was straight up honest with her because I was so happy that it happened like that. Because I'm like, well, the song, whenever the phone wigged out, I'm like, I told you, my environment speaks to me. And most of the time, it's very hard for me to understand what's happening because like that happens often. I get a lot of messages through music. And I can't always interpret it like that. But that one was pretty clear. Prior to that, I asked her information like, is it your account? Is it my account? Is it my name? Is it your name? What's the info? She said, no, it's in my name. It's in my account. So I said in my head, I'm so grateful that my wife had cleared the $200 into her account. I will thee, harm free, so would it be, and all the traditional, the usual stuff I said. And boom, it was in her account. The day of her promotion, Monday of this week that just passed, not today, obviously, this will be like last week, Monday. Same thing. Her boss called, or she was about to start work, and she was like, oh, fucking great, I got a meeting with my boss. And she had her meeting already scheduled for Tuesday, so she's like, oh, wonder what the fuck this is about all bad. I'm like, I don't get why you're all upset, because she works from home, right? So I hear her. I'm like, babe, there's no reason for you to be upset. And I'm like, and I'll put aside all the bullshit that I always say that, if you're going to fucking think it's something to worry about, then it's going to become something to worry about. Put all that shit aside. But I've been listening to you day in and day out, and you've been teaching people, all the new hires, you've been listening to them and teaching them for the last like 2 or 3 weeks, to the point where the new hires she keep getting, because she can see their screen, and they all have a cheat sheet on the screen, right, with different things and ways to interpret the calls, listen to the calls, how to deal the main calls that they get. There's a cheat sheet. Well, she created that cheat sheet for somebody a long time ago, and every new hire is now given her cheat sheet. So that's how good my wife is at her job. So I'm like, a bunch of different things like that I know. I said that to her. I'm like, if anything, you're gonna get a fucking promotion. And she's just looked at me, shook her head, and then I went outside and I said, I'm so grateful my wife got a promotion. I will be Humphrey, so would it be. And then it bugged me. I had a hard time keeping that off my mind. Eventually I got busy. I got it off my mind. And then she opens the door. She's like, guess what? I'm like, what? You got a promotion? And I was just fucking around because I thought it was a possibility, but I honestly didn't think she was going to get one. To be honest, I didn't think she got one. She got a fucking acting, fucking supervisor, pay, bonus job. My wife was already making like $33 an hour if you break down her salary. So now she's fucking like $40 an hour. And, that could have went either way. And you could say, well, it was already in the cards, this, that, yeah. No. Fuck all that shit. Magic is always a coincidence. We know this. It happens through synchronicity. We know this. But, say what you want about it. These little things, I continuously do this, and it continuously proves me right. And at a certain point, even my wife, I tell my wife all the time, I point it out to her because I want her to get in her head. I don't want her to do the stuff I'm doing. I want her to do her own version of it. I want everybody to do their own version of this. But they need to look into the older spiritualities to get a base, like sorry, my wife just reminded me I have a court date tomorrow for all that speeding shit. But I want everybody to have a base knowledge of spirituality so that they can connect to that part of their mind that they can create the reality, because the reality is being created whether they're aware of it or not. And even the people that are aware of it that don't have control yet, their realities are being created whether they know it or not. So this information, knowing the bicameral mind, and that all these old Bible books and shit that we are supposed to follow and believe there's a God in the sky and that we shouldn't do magic, is horse shit. And this is one of the reasons why it's horseshit. It's not that those things can't teach you stuff, because if you can interpret all those things in ways that'll benefit you, even the terrible things in the Old Testament where God tells people to rape the women and take wives onto themselves and kill people, you can interpret that in ways that'll be beneficial to you. I don't know how. I've never done it, but I'm sure in a scenario you can use that to your advantage somehow. Probably not. I don't know. That seems pretty dark. Maybe that's a leap. But there are a lot of stories in that book you can interpret to your benefit. But it's not meant to be used as this way to not do magic and not connect to that part of your reality that creates your reality. And if everybody started understanding how easy it is, it just takes time. It takes time. But it's a very simple process to just start putting the programming in your mind and add the software for you to be able to you can't speak things into existence, or just simply write on a candle what you want to happen to your existence, or simply make a sigil, a symbol, or put it on a recorder and listen to it when you go to bed. Put on specific books that, there's simple things you can do. You don't even have to meditate every day to have these things. It helps, but you don't have to. And that's what I want people to do. I want my wife to start doing that. I want her to believe that because my wife is always concentrating on losing weight. I told her, I'm like, eating great's good and all that, and like breathing would be the first thing you should focus on, but put all that aside. If you want to do something simple, write on a fucking card that you're grateful that you've lost whatever weight you want to lose, whether it's 15 or 50 pounds. Put on a fucking card, look at it every morning and every night, and see if I'm right. What do you got to lose? If it doesn't work in the 30 days and you don't start seeing a difference, well, then you get to say, hey, Corey, you're fucking wrong. And if it works, well, then you get to say, well, at least I lost the weight. Corey's right, but I lost the fucking weight. So it's a win-win. You know what I mean? What do you got to lose? And that's why everybody should look at it. But here's the problem. People start off strong. They'll put 2 weeks in and then just stop doing it. And then they'll pretend, oh, yeah, I did it and it didn't work. And it's like, no, you didn't actually fucking do it the way I told you to do it. And then you just want to sit on your high horse and say I'm wrong because you don't have the discipline to follow through. And it goes the same thing with all this shit. This people versus the government, people versus the man, people versus reptilians or Satan or the God of the Bible. Always have an excuse for why their life is miserable. And it's like, that's not the case. Your life is miserable because of you. Now, things happen to you and you're allowing those things to dictate your future. You simply have to forgive those who fucked you over, which is hard. And you have to move on and realize that you're not your past. You are your present that creates your future. If you keep holding on to the past and using the past for reasons you can't do anything good in the present and therefore doing things good in the future, well, then you'll always keep perpetuating your fucking past. But if you decide to say, you know what, I'm not my fucking past, and I'm going to create a better present so that I create a great future, well, that's what's going to happen. If you can slightly change, and it's not going to be easy all the time. You're not always going to be able to just switch your perception on things and create the life you want. But if you mostly try hard every time and you slip up every once in a while, let's say 1 week out of the month you don't do so great, and you kind of you backtrack, you lose some of the steam, some of you were 3 weeks you were going hard, and then 1 week you kind of lose a lot of your progress. Well, it's still only 1 week out of the 4. So there's still, let's say the 1 week cancels out another week, well, there's still 2 weeks of progress there. So you'll still slowly be moving ahead. Baby steps is all it takes, a little bit, every day that you keep yourself in balance, that you realize, okay, these are bad thoughts, but I'm not going to dwell on them, and maybe they won't happen. Well, every time you can change your perception on things, if things are going shitty and you can simply just focus on something good in your life instead of that, until you get out of that predicament, well, you're going to do yourselves a world of good. Once again, not always easy, and sometimes you actually have to deal with those things head on and fight back and stand up for yourself and actually use the fear emotion to propel yourself to the happy emotion. sometimes that is what you have to do. By just pushing it aside and just saying, I'm staying in love, it's not always going to work. And I'll tell you something else. I did a whole bunch of videos about reject, banish, deny in the past, okay? Over and over and over again, I wanted to explain reject, banish, deny, how it works, and then accepting what you want. And I always said the same way Frater and the book Kabbalah, The Great Work of Self-Transformation, explains it, how what you do is every time you get a bad thought, you banish that thought away. Every time you get a good thought, you accept it. So I say I tweaked it, and I think Frater has a video about it as well, but saying from now on, I want you to keep doing the first part, banishing all the bad thoughts, and then saying you accept the good thoughts. So you pick a thought that you accept, or whatever the case is. And I've been doing that successfully for a long time now. And this is the kind of magic I do on a daily basis, and I speak things into existence using this method. So I don't just go around saying, hey, I have $100, and then boom, I have $100. No. But as I get bad thoughts, so something comes up, like my wife. This thing wasn't even a thought, okay? Whether it's the car example, money not being in the account yet, I had no idea. I had no prior knowledge of this. I had no idea we didn't have enough money for lunch. $40, family of 6. When we go to McDonald's, it's $72 for everybody to go to McDonald's. And I don't even fucking eat. I don't eat that garbage. It's $72 fucking for 2 Happy Meals for the 2 youngest, and 3 other bigger meals for my wife and the 2 boys. Plus it's $72 almost every time. Sometimes 65 to 68, but $72 fucking give or take mostly. So anyways, so that's why the $40 wasn't enough. But I had no prior knowledge. We didn't have money. Nothing. She told me the circumstance. I could see it on her face. Something was bugging her. We're having this good time, and she's a little, face is all red, blood pressure's up. I know my wife. And, I mean, you can kind of tell that about anybody, but I'm very good at reading people's emotions. This is one of the reasons I can tell when someone's bullshitting too, because I know all the eye signals going up to the side, whatever. I spend a lot of time studying a lot of shit about that. But so I saw something was up. Hey, what's up, babe? Well, we spent a lot of money today, and that's one of her biggest triggers for putting her into a shitty mood, is money. And so she's like, well, this money is in our account, but it's cleared, blah, 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 blah. So on the way home, that's when I know. So it wasn't even a thought I had, because here's the thing. I work on depolarization a lot, and I don't let money ever bug me. So when it comes to money, I have no ties. If we get the money, great. If we don't, the kids will wait till we get home, we'll cook food. It don't matter to me either way. But this was something important to her. So this is why doing magic for somebody also works better through a magician, because you don't have a tie to it. Working magic for yourself sometimes is harder, because if you have an emotional tie to it, and this is why becoming depolarized is the best way to bring things into your existence and change your life. But the caveat, if you will, the fucking paradox is, you get into magic to try to better your life, get money, get rich, get laid, whatever the case is. But if you do it properly and you become depolarized, well, you no longer have an emotional tie to those things, to want those things. So you can take it or leave it. Because I manifest money, and it was so cool the way that played out, and I was able to tell by my phone that the money was in the account, and that was like the little rush, the little high, the little endorphin release I got, because I accomplished magic. But it was just more proof that I can bring things into reality, which is great. But I didn't give 2 fucks about the money. I didn't give a fuck about any of that. My wife getting the promotion, same thing. My wife deserves a promotion, and I was proud of her, and I was happy for her, and I still am, and I love that. I don't give 2 fucks if she makes more money than me. Like I said, I'm proud of her. She deserves it. She's been working hard, working her ass off. She's been doing overtime like crazy. Like, she's proven herself. She deserves that. And once again, if she can just allow her mind to get out of the way, then I can use my mind to bring it into my reality that's attached to hers. So, but the point is, these aren't my thoughts. So reject, banish, deny doesn't only work with your thoughts. That's how powerful this is. And it comes back to the thing I was talking about when I wanted to do the love spell thing. This is what I want to teach, is using the proper words. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know a bunch of different special words for you to use, but I know what works for me. I am grateful that this has come to me. I will be harm-free, so mote it be. Or I accept that this has happened for me. I will be harm-free, so mote it be. You know, the I am, we're supposed to get rid of and all that, and I agree with Grant Morrison and all that. But for right now, when you do magic, you want to bring this into your your entity, your corporation that's on paper. Your corporate entity is Corey LeBlanc. That's where the money has to come through to. So you use it for that. But then you go and do your meditation as, a being that's connected to all beings. You can separate yourself from that entity when you're spiritual, and then you can come back into your personality when you have to be around people that don't know this stuff. You can separate from it. But these weren't my thoughts. Yet I was still able to use my mind to bring that into my wife's and my reality so that my kids could eat out before we got home. And we didn't go to McDonald's, by the way. But point is, that's how powerful that is. And everybody can do this. It's not just me. I'm not just a magi who's reincarnated over and over again and these things just came to me. If I have been, I don't fucking remember that shit. I tend to think that I've done this in a past life. Going by my chart, where my Rahu and Ketu is, my Rahu, or I think Ketu is the one you're supposed to follow. Anyways, the north node of the moon is in Aries, so that's something I need to learn in this life. But my past life and what I'm comfortable in is in Scorpio, where Pluto is, and it's my descendant line, where my subconscious mind also is. So all that's connected. So in my past life, I was maybe a healer, maybe in a cult, maybe a witch, whatever the case is. So I do have strong ties there in my family line and all that. So that shit's natural, and that's why I think only 3 years later I'm talking about this shit like, I've been in the game for a while, and I'm not pretending to be all-knowing and all great, but I'm just saying these things are working for me over and over and over again, and unfortunately, because I am depolarized, I'm not trying to go for the big money. I'm not trying to get $100,000. I'm not trying to even get $50,000. First, the only times I tried for the 10 grand, which I got 5 times now, but was in the beginning, was within my first year, and then I tried one more time during my second year into the occult when I first started the magical thing. Technically, when I wasn't even in the magical curriculum yet when I got the 10 grand the first 3 times. And the next 2 times I got it because I was like, well, maybe everybody's right, this is a fluke. So then I used Jupiter Sigil, and I used just calling it in during the ritual whenever I first started doing the Earth grade, because you're supposed to be able to take care of your finances. And well, let's see if I can bring in 10 grand using the Earth grade. And I did. I did it 2 more times. And now I don't even bother. I make sure we got what we need, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell can I do that's going to be useful for me as a job. What can I do as a job that has meaning and all that? And that's what I'm trying to figure out as I'm doing my curriculum, because I really think my curriculum is something I need to finish. I really think I need to do this curriculum and go through all the elemental grades, and that's like top priority for me right now. And it's kind of been put on the back burner while I'm working things out with my wife right now and trying to find this happy balance so I don't sacrifice or fuck up my family life just to do my transformation. But the point of all that just was that simply banishing the thoughts you don't want and accepting the thoughts you do want is huge. And you can create these thoughts out of nowhere. Like I said, I didn't have any of those thoughts in my mind because I'm depolarized. I don't give 2 fucks if we have money in the account. I don't give 2 fucks if my wife gets a promotion or not. Like I said, she's proud of her and she deserved it, but it doesn't matter to me. I want her to be happy above all. But I put my feet on the ground. I do the middle pillar. I continuously test myself by looking at things that I think I have the opposite opinion of, and then I look at that stuff and it's like, you know what? I can kind of see their point of view, but I can also still understand my old point of view. I practice this shit, and some people say, well, it's not good to be in the middle, but I don't believe that. I think whenever you're in the middle, no one can affect you. No one can say something that's going to really harm me. No one's going to say something that's going to trigger me into this rage. I don't have any when I'm depolarized, I don't have any emotional ties to any subjects, except for maybe the health of my children and my wife when it comes to that, and maybe their financial futures, like for my kids. But besides that, I don't have any emotional ties to anything else. I can take it or leave it. I got a house and a car, and to me it's like, we're never going to lose them, but if I was to, it's like, we can start over and we can get it all back. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but that's not going to happen because I know what I know, and I'm able to keep my family afloat while I do this. And then eventually when I figure out what I'm going to do, what I need to do, when I get to the place where it's like, okay, well, this is a meaningful job that I'm going to go there happy every day, or I create a job, or whatever the case is, well, I can do that. But from right now, from where I'm sitting, I have a bunch of things. It's like, well, that'd be cool to do, and that'd be all right to do, and I think I could do that for the rest of my life. But to me, that's not what it should be. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like, oh, I'll settle for that. That seems like something I could do for my entire life. But I want something that's like, whoa, this is what I was put on this planet for. I haven't seen that yet or had that idea yet, and I think, you know, it's because I'm too depolarized. Who knows? And maybe it's just because I haven't come across it yet, and it's just not my time to find it yet. So until that comes, I'm gonna keep doing and fine-tuning my crafts. Like I said before, there are people that have the name ceremonial witchcraft out there, and I gave permission for that a while back. If anybody wants to use the name ceremonial witchcraft for their spirituality, go for it. Ceremonial witchcraft is just magic. It's just the ceremonial magic is like the right-hand path, and the witchcraft is the left-hand path. And those are my two polarities, and I'm right in the middle using both from an equal point of view. And it's just a mishmash of all these different arts that I try to hone and use, that I think I am allowed to use. And I don't give a fuck if people tell me I'm not allowed to use. I'm going to use them anyways. And as long as it works, then fuck the rest. But by simply just saying I am grateful for having such and such, or sorry, I banish that thought and I accept the opposite. And that's using every hermetic principle in one little statement. And then if you get it out of your mind, then it's going to, as above, so below, come into your reality. You know, it's a very, very powerful thing you can do. And one of the best things you can do. Gratitude is one of the most powerful emotional states that are on the polarity of love. So use it, and use it to your benefit, and use it often. And keep using it until you start seeing the results. Because, like, you can say, if you're just starting out and you say, I'm grateful that I have $3,000. Well, you created that possibility. Every time you think in your mind that, fuck, I'm never going to get it. And then 3 weeks later, you haven't got it. And then 3 months come around, you haven't got it. But you keep adding that energy to that, well, then you're canceling it out. So keep that in mind. But you created the possibility of you getting that. So the moment you can get it completely out of your mind and have complete faith in that, and the more energy you put into that, into the astral, and you got rid of whatever representation you have on you, well, then you're good. The reason the whole putting the paper in your pocket thing works, and in all honesty, the reason you do it for a month, and this is the part that I would add to that little procedure, is after the month, you get rid of that paper. And you create a new paper with something slightly different. And if it's about let's say you're a girl and you want to lose weight. You walk around for a month, put a piece of paper in your pocket, say, I'm so grateful I lost 50 pounds. You look at that every morning, and then when you go to bed, you forget a day, well, you add a day on. It has to be 30 days in a row. At the end of that, you take that fucking paper, you bury it, you burn it, you destroy it, you get rid of it. Burning it would be your best, putting it in the ground, second best. Well, not really. Either one of them will work. But burn it, get rid of it. Don't just throw it in the garbage. It's not gone. It might be out of your reality, it might be out of your life, so maybe it'll work, but it's not gone. Bury it, burn it, get rid of it. And then the next one was, I'm so grateful that I went down to belt sizes, something like that if you want. This way it's different. So you put energy into a different idea. And then this way, the other representation for the first month, you looked at it, you get that thing every energy, every morning, every night, when your mind was closer to the subconscious mind. And, you know, maybe sometimes it didn't go in, but you still gave enough energy, you created on the astral. And then you get rid of that paper so that you don't have a representation here in this realm. So therefore, after that time, it comes down to you. And then by creating the new one for the next month, it's going to help you forget about the last one. You focus on this one and just have complete faith it's going to work, okay? And anytime you have a thought saying, oh, it's not going to work, I'm not going to lose 50 pounds, and I'm not going to lose a couple sizes down. No, I banish, someone say no. I banish that thought and accept that I lost. And I am grateful that I lost 50 pounds. I will be harm-free, so mote it be. Definitely use those words. Those words are powerful as well. I will be harm-free, so mote it be. I use that for every fucking spell, and all my spells work, even when I'm accepting and banishing. Sometimes I don't even have to say those, and it works. If I forget the money in the account, I didn't say that, and it worked. But, well, I did after when I accepted it in my head before it came into our account, but I didn't. Anyways, point of all this is that's how you do it. And that will work. That will simple procedure will work for you. Whether or not you have the program in your head, it'll work for you. And if you have programming against this somehow in your head, then you'll lose the weight, but you'll gain it back fast. And that's going to tell you that you have some programming in your head that you are supposed to be whatever weight you are. And that means you got to get rid of that programming. Because you can use magic to get your goal, but if you get 10 grand but then it's gone the next fucking day, but you have some programming or like taxes or something pops up that you have to spend that 10 grand right away, and you have some programming that you're not worthy to get that. So that means that you have to get rid of that programming before you do any more trying to call money into your being. Do you understand? And that's a good way to know. It's a good way to figure this shit out. Do a spell, do a fucking... That money thing is from Earl Nightingale. Type in Earl Nightingale, the strangest secret. And he will explain to you all of this, except for what I added, the burning part. I think I'm going to let this video go at this. I think this is enough for tonight. Grant Morrison's on here. Maybe I'll play a little bit more of him. My podcast, I'll probably definitely play a lot more of him on there. I'll probably finish it off with the whole fucking thing. But, yeah, I'm going to try to work on that love spell wording fucking thing for you guys tonight, tomorrow, and expect it potentially tomorrow night, maybe the next night. But anyways, hope you enjoyed. Have a great fucking day.